Okay, let's steam into the aviation news. Now, the story that I picked out today that I got very excited about, I think I got more excited about the story than Jake, is that the RAAF have released this new kind of incredible TV advert. Essentially, it's like one of these Christopher Nolan films. It's like Inception and Batman and Dunkirk, and it's astonishing production values. And obviously, this comes kind of in the middle of reports that all of defence, along with a lot of industries, have got a bit of a talent shortage. Jake, tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so it's this multimedia sort of cross-media campaign. It's got TV, cinema, radio, out of home, digital and socials, all of those, and it's really sort of pushing this idea that the Air Force is not just about being a fighter pilot. Or being a pilot in general, though they certainly do need people for those roles. But, technical fields, mechanics, electronic and cyber warfare, space, all of these other fields that the RAAF is involved with. So Matt Keir, the Minister for Defence Personnel and Veterans Affairs, over the weekend in Perth said that the Air Force is quite successful in its recruitment endeavours. He said, but the areas we really need to focus on are around those engineering roles, those intelligence, cyber warfare, electronic warfare roles, and also this new space domain that are so critical now to the work that we do. They're the areas we're focused on growing. He says, what we see with the focus on technological roles in our Defence Force is it reflects what we're seeing across broader society. We need people that have got good STEM skills to come into our defence force. And so this is sort of the background behind this campaign. Up there is kind of the tagline of it. There's all sorts of different RAAF aircraft that are featured in the campaign. You've got the F-35A Lightning IIs, the FA-18F Super Hornet jets, E-7A Wedgetail, C-17A Globemaster Heavy Airlifter. There is actually airborne scenes that were, for the first time, like this is, new technology being used in Australia, high-definition gimbal cameras that have been placed aboard an L-39 jet to record a lot of these airborne scenes. And so it is very impressive, very cinematic, as you say, Adam. It could be a movie trailer.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And so in my last job, many moons ago, I worked for a website that basically reported on the media and marketing industry. And so as part of that, I watched far too many Australian TV adverts. This is genuinely one of the best ones I've ever seen. It's really, really, really clever. And what I like about it, just to go back a little bit, a couple of issues ago in the magazine, we reported on the Gold Coast Air Show, and one of the Gold Coast Pacific Air Show. And one of the points they were trying to push is that aviation has actually become not so much uncool, but it's been pushed out of the mainstream among young people. It's not as cool as perhaps it used to be, 3 or 4 decades ago. And one of the things I was told when I interviewed one of the kind of key figures there was, you go along to traditional air shows, you see a lot of older men, you don't see many women, you don't necessarily see enough young people other than perhaps really young kids. And that's one of the reasons you've got a bit of a talent shortage. It's one of the reasons you're struggling to get people in, because aviation is not seen as being cool. And so one of the things the Pacific Air Show has tried to do is to try to make it cool, to make it for young adults and for kids, to give it a kind of a lifestyle element, to add music and entertainment in as well, and to actually make the shows themselves a lot more engaging. And what I liked about this advert is it's kind of tackling that head on. So again, it's the way it's been shot, the dramatic way it's been shot. You've got loads of pretty young people. You've got this one point where you've got like an F-35 reflected in somebody's kind of eye, and it's just brilliant. It's presenting this as a very, very exciting profession, and the kind of a tagline or the kind of the brand platform of the silly marketing jargon is this update idea that kind of up there anything is possible. Up there the rules don't
This
apply.
is where your potential is.
Yeah, exactly. And so rather than it being about here's some old-fashioned looking airplanes, basically, it's saying this is the most exciting thing ever. And it brings to mind when I've spoken to kind of a lot of plane spotters, and when people ask me, what is it that motivates people to take pictures of planes all the time? And I say to them, when they look up at the sky, they don't just see a plane. They see a miracle of science. They see one of the greatest, inventions man's ever produced. They see the hopes and dreams of the people on that aircraft, all the journeys, etc.
It takes you back to when I spoke to Jeb Brooks, the YouTuber, last year. Hello, Jeb, if you're listening. When I spoke to Jeb Brooks, he talked about how amazing it was that you can, step in a door and like a few hours later step out that same door and be somewhere else in the world entirely. How he had always appreciated the miracle of flight, and that was what partially spurred him to become an aviation YouTuber, which he's made a very successful career out of. If you haven't listened to that podcast from last year, very interesting podcast, very entertaining. Jeb, lovely guy, and we would like to have him back on the show anytime that he would like to come on. So Jeb, if you're listening, drop us an email.
That's it. I think if you want to cover aviation properly, you have to understand the romance of it. And one of the things I've kind of always said is it's the most exciting thing about aviation isn't the aircraft, it's the people, it's the stories, it's the romance. And that's what I really, really like about the campaign. It's really tapped into that.
Look at the Ron Twine, his name was, the Air New Zealand flight attendant who we spoke to. He'd spent 50 years or something with Air New Zealand, and he'd seen how the industry had evolved over that time, and had all these amazing stories from his time in the skies.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same thing when we had Chris on the show, and you say, why did you get involved in aviation? Because he saw the aircraft in the skies when he was younger, and he sort of fell in love with the romance of it. But credit to, obviously it was created by an ad agency, but it's done in conjunction with Defence. Credit for them to doing something quite different. I think they did a similar ad about a year ago, but it was nowhere near as good as this. Credit them for doing something different. This is going to be rolled out across. It's going to be in TV. It's going to be in cinema. It's going to be on all the social media and websites, etc. I think this is really good. Defence have got a problem with recruiting people, and they're actually doing a really clever and good thing to tackle that issue.
Yeah, a really good time for Defence to be doing this because they heard Senate estimates last month. Angus Campbell, the chief of the ADF, General Angus Campbell, told Senate estimates that overall Defence was about 4,300 people short of its authorised strength. And there was News Corp saw these internal defence minutes in October that said that future milestones for trained F-35A pilots are trending below planned numbers. So, they said that there's workforce attraction, generation, and retention challenges. Most of the F-35A workforce has successfully transitioned from the classic Hornet, but there are still shortages across technical support and pilot workforces. So it's not a moment too soon, I think, for the RAAF to be having an ad like this that can really sell people on the excitement of a career in the Air Force.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, particularly just take a number of professions, but say we look at pilots. If you want to be an F-35 pilot, it's not just that they need enough applicants. You've got to be very, very, very good to get in that cockpit, and you need to have enough people that you can wheedle out those that aren't good enough, because the series of challenges and the series of tests they've got to go through is very, very high. Similarly with things like engineers. Engineers are a very, very high skilled profession. You can't just sort of take anyone. You need people that have done their time, that know their stuff, that are willing to travel around the world. So that's why you need this big pipeline of people. So I do think doing something like that is a really, really good start.
And especially considering as well, there's, a broader talent shortage across the aviation industry. They're short on pilots, they're short on engineers. There was, a lot of ink and pixels spilled last year about staff shortages in air services for air traffic controllers. Air services has been, doing major sort of recruitment over the past year and a bit. Possibly longer than that, and when I went to the Air Services Melbourne facility, I saw some of the training processes that these ATCs had to go through, and we spoke to a trainee air traffic controller and learned about what's it like. It seems like a very interesting profession. It'd have to be an interesting profession, and so all of these different sectors of the aviation industry are needing people. Younger people to choose aviation as a career, be that as a pilot or an engineer or an air traffic controller or whatever else.
Exactly. Well, no, keep up the good work. And I'm very intrigued to see where they can take this campaign next.